Today, CNBC Africa is focusing on the luxury goods market in South Africa and across the continent, and nothing quite says status and luxury like diamonds. While joining us is Keith White, who is from Black and White Master Apprenticeship at Savannah Diamond Company. Keith, thank you so much for making the time to join us. Nozipo and I were saying earlier that we understand you have something for us today, because you know it is a girl's best friends.
A gift or two will do.
Come and see me afterwards.
Now, Keith, let's understand this, because you did just mention briefly that your expertise are in manufacturing.
Correct.
But let's talk about the diamond industry in terms of the trends and the demand. How big is the demand?
Well, the demand in South Africa, I would say, is a lot stronger than in Europe, which is where I had my previous working experience. I found there's a big demand for diamonds in this country. People sort of tend, if they're choosing an engagement ring or just a piece to wear out, they go for diamonds.
Of course, Keith, let's also perhaps look at some of the good work that you're doing, understanding that you are adding to the beneficiation belt in South Africa. Talk to us a little bit about how you're training young people in the manufacturing space around diamonds, and how that in turn is adding value to the economy.
Well, to go back to the beginning, when I'd had quite a lot of experience in South Africa. I came in '95, originally from the jewellery trade in London, where I'd been trained, and I noticed that in the trade here, the trade's a lot smaller here, but I noticed that there weren't that many, young black jewellers trained to a high level. There were quite a lot in the industry, but it seemed to me that the owners of the businesses just trained them to a certain level and not to the highest level. So in 2010, I decided to launch my own training program, which we call Black and White. I know it's a bit corny, but we called it Black and White.
As long as you're not calling them black diamonds, I think it's still okay.
Well, exactly, yeah. Although we work with black diamonds. The aim of the program was to take as many students as we could, fit in, not physically fit in, but because there's only a certain number you can train. It's quite a long process. You've got to understand the training to be a fully qualified jeweler takes anything from 3 to 5 years before you're competent enough. So we started the program in 2010, initially with 5 students. We now have 10 students, and we're hoping to raise that by the end of the year to 15. But this is training to the very highest, world standards. I've had experience fortunately working for the big houses in London, in Bond Street, Graff and Cartier and people like that. And the level is a lot higher than a lot of the jewellery made in this country.
Now, Keith, you mentioned that the diamond or the demand is a lot bigger here in South Africa, but you do have international demand. But how do they know when you're buying something from you, that it's not a blood diamond? Because I think a lot of people, when you start thinking of diamonds, we had that movie that came out, I think it's called Blood Diamond. Yeah. How do you make sure that the diamond that you have and that you are shipping abroad or taking abroad is a legitimate one?
Okay, well, up until a few years ago, you really didn't know. You had to take, the person's word for it. Now, since they launched the Kimberley process, all the diamond dealers that work in the bourse in town in Main Street, they have to on the paperwork they give you, they have to state that they guarantee that the stone is not a blood diamond. It's come from the correct sources. So they actually physically guarantee that the stone is not a blood diamond, and experts can actually tell when they look at, believe it or not, when they look at a diamond, where it's come from. So they can ascertain that way as well.
I think Dumi's also just trying to allay her fears with that big rock on her finger. But while the rest of us try to get that rock, let's perhaps look at local and international trends. Where is the highest attraction or highest traction in terms of clientele? Who's demanding the most diamonds right now?
I deal mostly with the South African trade. South African market, I should say, and also some of the UK market. But my understanding is there's strong demand in China, in India, in America, the usual places. But certain countries, have certain demands. I know, for instance, in China, they sort of tend to go for the slightly smaller stones, but lots of them. The bigger stones, obviously, in America. The Arabs, of course. The Russians are still buying, big. When I was working at Graf, a big part of their market was the Russian market.
I want to quickly perhaps look at the sustainability of the business, if I may. I mean, if we look at Botswana, which has traditionally been known for its diamonds, it seems as if the sector took a bit of a stumble and it's being revived once again. Is this a sustainable business to be in?
What, cutting diamonds, or the diamond business
well,
itself? It seems
getting them out of the ground and cutting them.
Look, I say my expertise is in manufacturing, so but I deal with a lot of the big diamond dealers in South Africa, and I know that they also have operations in Botswana as well. So there seems to be a strong demand. I mean, whatever they cut, they sell. Even down to. From one of the difficulties that South African trade has is actually getting diamonds from the dealers, because they prefer to sell overseas because they're getting paid in dollars rather than getting paid in rands here. So there still seems to be strong demand. I think what we're trying to do is create a niche sort of market. I think the way that the manufacturing trade in South Africa has got to go is more designer led. We can't compete with China and the Far East. They can always do it cheaper. So what we're teaching our students is, and trying to give them encouragement, is to design their own pieces, get their own look, and get their own little niche market. For example, what we're doing now is we're working with one of the diamond companies, Savannah Diamonds, and we're creating our own range, which is going to be called the Earth Collection. And the students have designed the whole thing themselves. They've manufactured the whole thing themselves. And for me, that is the way in the jewellery industry, because it is quite small here. That's the way it's got to go. It's got to be niche and it's got to be designer. And I think there's big potential here. I really do. The talent is amazing in this country.
We always hear that in the manufacturing industry in South Africa is not where it should be. You, as a diamond manufacturer, are what sort of mechanisms do you think we need to have in place to encourage, a thriving manufacturing industry here?
The simple answer is skills transfer. As I said at the beginning, the level of skills is not high enough. As I've worked overseas, I know what the quality required is overseas, and if we want to get up there, we've really got to start training young people, because the talent is there. I'm telling you, I've got 3 students that we took straight from school, never picked up tools before, and they're producing the most wonderful pieces. After 2-3 years of training, they're producing fantastic pieces, and the opportunity is there for them, and if we can build up the trade here, and I say build up niche markets, designer markets, it'll succeed. I'm sure it will. There's big potential here.
Now, Keith, I know I have run out of time, but we just want to know, in terms of the most expensive piece of diamond that you have currently, how much would that cost?
Well, I don't have that many big ones. A lot of the stones, I should say, we're working in are sort of they're sort of rough diamonds. They're very interesting. They've been slightly cut, but they look really interesting. It's like a rough range. But I can tell you at Graf, I did work with the most expensive, one of the most expensive diamonds, which was it's about 120 carat yellow diamond.
120. Yeah.